That means we're on. Hello, everybody. Jenny Cannon.
Hello, everyone. And I'm looking out there at the audience that I can see, and I see so many of my committee members and my helpers for the library. Thank you.
Okay, the first thing about Jenny Cannon, who is, of course, head of the library committee, is that she's a very busy woman. I called her up yesterday to interview her to get ready for this, and she says, well, I'm very busy. Come down quickly. So she always does what she has to do. She just rushed out of another meeting to get here. Thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome.
Okay, I can't resist starting off by mentioning that today, which is such a cold day, and tomorrow it's going to be in the 70s, and it's the last day probably of the maple sugaring season. And I know Jenny, first of all, from a trip we took together to visit maple sugaring in the area. She grew up with it. Tell us.
Well, we went to see Crown Maple a few years ago on the bus. But, when I was a very young girl, they had a sugar bush. And the sugar bush is a stand of maple trees that people tap to get sap and boil down into syrup. And the sugar house. And this time of year, in fact, I bet it's over.
Tomorrow, when it's in the 70s, it'll be over.
What happens when it's warm days and cold nights is the perfect time for tapping trees. And I grew up on a farm, a dairy farm. When I was little, our dairy was quite small, and we needed to supplement the income, and making syrup was a good way to do it. So I have some interesting, I just wrote a memoir for memoir class about getting lost in the woods. When I was sticking my head under all those taps to taste the sap. So I always get a little, memories come back when the days are warm and the nights are cold.
Thanks, Jenny. Okay, this interview will be about two things. It'll be about Jenny herself and about Jenny's library. So the first thing is congratulations on your very successful open house. Tell us about it. How would it go?
Well, a few years ago, we sent out as the library committee. And first of all, before I even go there, I want to thank my committee. This library would not run without the library committee and also those people that help us in many ways by writing book reports for Woodland Live, by mending books, by just doing all of those things that would happen in a regular library. And of course, I want to thank all of the residents that donate books. We can't always take all the books you donate. We do have a policy on what we accept, and maybe I'll talk about that in a little bit, but I want to get back to the open house. We sent out a survey a few years ago about what people wanted to read. And we took the results of that survey. We also looked at our shelves to see what subjects were moving, what people were taking out, and what subjects people were not touching. And because we get such a wonderful supply of books coming in, I bet each week we get 7 to 10 books donated to us. We can't go anywhere. We can't build up. We can't build out. So we have to weed, a library term that I learned about when I took this job. And maybe I should stop right there and confess, I'm not a professional librarian. I feel like I've had a course in library science working with the real librarians on my committee. So I've learned a lot of library terms. One is weeding, We weed out those books that people do not take out. And we found there were a lot of categories that just, the books were sitting there collecting dust. Gardening. People go to the internet today if they garden, and not a lot of our people here garden. Cooking, cookbooks, no, they didn't go anywhere. Interestingly enough, religion was just collecting dust. The books in religion, actually, not the religion itself. Travel, those were some of the categories that we eliminated. We needed the room. So a small ad hoc committee from the main committee got together once a week, and we went through the various topics, and we weeded those books that we just felt they'd been on the shelf too long. They were not going out, and we needed the space. So we rearranged our areas. One I'd like to speak to is mystery. We have a lot of mystery readers here, a lot of people that donate mystery books, a lot of people that read the books. Mystery was a fairly small space in the library. Now it is that entire wall, with the exception of short stories and poetry. Other than those two categories, mystery covers that whole, what I'll call the front wall, the wall that faces out toward the front of the building. So we did all of this, and we decided that people needed, our old people, the people that have been here, yes, we're all old, so I don't mean it as far as our age, but the people that have been living here using our library were maybe not aware of some of the changes we've made. And we had all those people that moved in during COVID. So we thought this is a good time. Our library now is pretty up to date. It's a good time to have an open house. So we sent personal invitations to all of those people, that 40 some odd people that moved in during, I don't think I should have said odd, a number in the 40 plus people that moved in during COVID. We gave them individual invitations in their cubbies, and we advertised. We had the front page of Woodland Life to talk about our library. And we had an open house last week. It was, I fussed and worried and lost sleep. We're doing all this and nobody's going to come. I couldn't have been more pleasantly surprised. We had.
Of course, part of it was the delicious donuts you had.
Oh, yes, we did advertise we were having refreshments, and the dining room worked with us at our suggestion that we have donuts and cider. And maybe the snowstorm helped too, because nobody could get in their car and go away. So we had just a wonderful, wonderful turnout. For you people out there, if you didn't get to come to the open house and you really want to see our new library, any one of our committee members would be happy to give you an individual tour. So, yes.
You're talking about subjects you eliminated, but didn't you say that you created new subject areas, 2 of them? Are there 2 new areas?
2 new areas.
In the library?
My mind is now gone
Blank.
blank.
Okay.
We rearranged a lot of the areas. I don't think we created any new topics, but we did expand some of our topics and break them down into different categories.
Do you have any feeling at all about what percentage of the people who live here don't use the library at all?
Probably, no, I don't know the percentage, but my guess is it's too many. I think there's too many people here that read and they're buying books. I'm glad they are, because the books they buy, they give to us. But I think that we would like to see more of our residents using the library. We have a pretty good idea of who uses the library from the sign out sheets. But I encourage people to come and use the library. Someone called me last week and interested in something on World War I. And I was able to find one book for her, and she came to the library. Yes, I called her on the phone, told her I'd found a book on World War I, and she came yesterday and signed that book out. I'm not sure, maybe she uses the library a lot, I don't know. But for people that really want to learn more about the library, I highly recommend our database, Alexandria. Almost all of our books, I will not say all, but most of our books are in the database. Thanks to Joyce Gartrell. And there you are, Vera. She's here. They are putting our books that we are accumulating into the database called Alexandria. Anyone that has a computer in their apartment can go to that database and look up a book or an author to see if it's on, if we own it. Now, I can't guarantee it'll be on the shelves. One, it may be out in circulation, or two, it may be out and we don't know where it is because nobody has
Okay,
has
I want to
returned
ask
it.
you about just that.
But let me just finish about Alexandria. So if you're really interested in doing this, there's a folder in the library near the computers that has information, a sheet on how to get to Alexandria from your own computer at home. And if we have enough interest, we'll do a workshop, but that people have to let us know. Yes.
You mentioned books that may have disappeared. So a dirty little fact, all you people who are afraid to come to the library because you're afraid you might take a book out too long and there'll be a big fine. I wanted Jenny to talk a little bit about the finances of the library and how they hold you to the fire if you lose something.
Well, we have no budget, which is okay, because we have so many books that come in from our readers. If we really need something desperately, sometimes Sarah can find a few dollars to help us buy something. I know our volunteers do things, buy pencils or whatever, things that we need. And there are no fines if your book is late. We recommend a month. That's 4 weeks. That's longer than most public libraries give you to read. If you need it longer than a month, what you need to do is come in, find your sign out place, cross it out, and then re-sign it out. I just would like to talk a little bit about how to sign out a book. That is so important. We have a sheet, ongoing sheets of where to sign out. You include the author, the name of the book, your name, and the your apartment or cottage number. And when you bring it back, you are supposed to find that sheet and cross your name off. Each sheet is numbered. I think we're on like 28 now since the beginning of the year. There's a little slip of paper there that you can write the page number, say it's 28, where you signed out the book, and put it in the book as to use as a bookmark, or very lightly I emphasize lightly with pencil on the very back. You can write down that page number. It will help you find the page when you come back, and then you can erase it. Do it lightly. We allow 2 months of sign-outs. And after the 2 months have passed, we pull the sheets for those months. So we must have pulled December fairly recently. Alice Ruffing has taken on the job of tracking down books that have not come back in that period of time. So the first thing we do a shelf read to see if the book is on the shelf. Lots of times it's on the shelf. Somebody brought it back and didn't cross their name off, or they lent it to somebody else and somehow or another it got put back on the shelf. Then Alice sends a reminder to the person with the name of the book, and there is a basket under the sign-out table for overdue books. Then, if it doesn't show up, then she makes a phone call. We try to get back all the books that go out. Some people have said, well, why bother? You don't pay anything for these books. Why bother? Well, they're good books, and there are other residents that might like to read those books. So I beg you, please, to return your books, cross off your information, make Alice's job easier, and don't get upset because sometimes people do, don't get upset when she sends you the letter or the phone call. It's interesting, people say, I never signed that book out. And then Alice will pull the sheet where it was signed out and give it to the person, a copy to the person. The person will say, oh, yes, I do remember now. I did sign that out. Sometimes those books get on our shelves and they look like they belong to us. So we work hard to get those books back.
Jenny, is it true that books that have not been read in a year, I know there's a check mark in the back of every book that's read. You eliminate books that have not been read in how long a period?
I believe it's 3 years. Is that right, Ann? Ann just wrote the policy. Ann Gordon's sitting out there. You can't see her, but she just brought the policy. We revised it on how we should read our books, our only fiction and mystery we're talking about now, because we read those other categories in a very different way. For example, art books may never go out of the library. That doesn't mean that people don't use them. They come in, they sit at the table, they look at the book, and it goes back on the shelf. So for mystery and fiction, we have a policy of 3 years and so many checks in the back of the book. And then if it hasn't gone out in that period of time, and there are no checks, we put it out on the giveaway cart, or if it doesn't go away on the giveaway cart, and usually they do, then we'll give them to Elting for their book sale.
Okay, so books that are on the giveaway, people take them out.
Don't bring them back.
And are told not to bring them back. But I have to admit that I have brought them back rather than throw them in the garbage.
Don't throw them in the garbage.
What then?
Collect them and give them to Elting.
Well, now you told me that you give books to
We
Elting.
do give books to Elting.
The library in New Paltz.
The library in New Paltz, yes.
So if we do put books back on that giveaway shelf, eventually you will get them to Elting if nobody takes them?
Eventually, and also they might go out to somebody else.
Uh-huh,
I
that's
might
right.
take them. Also, that brings up something very important. Just last night, I discovered, and yesterday was my day to shelve. Our committee takes turns shelving books at the end of the day. My turn to shelve. So I'm in the basket of returned books and getting ready to put the little check marks in the back. And what do I find? A book that we are giving away. It has a D on it. It's somebody took it off the giveaway and has returned it back in the return basket. So yes, we really prefer if you take something on the giveaway to keep it and pass it on to somebody you know. You must have a family member or a friend that might be interested in it. If last resort, put it back on the giveaway, and eventually somebody else will take it or it'll go to Elting.
Is there a policy when people donate books and all the books are donated?
All the
Is there
books.
a policy guiding which ones you will keep and which ones you don't?
Not really a written policy, but we do have, first of all, when we decide if we're going to keep a book, we look to see if it's a topic that we feel our library users will be interested in. We get some scientific books, get some books that we know will never go off the shelves. So we put those out for giveaway. Now this is going to sound silly, I know, but our clientele is of the elderly or the old, as I like to call it. And if it's too heavy or the print is too small, we give it away. It's a book that's going to be too difficult for people to handle.
Okay, then all of your new books, there are two shelves on the table right near the entrance. Does every new book go on that so people can check out what's new?
We have two small bookcases at the end of that main table as you come into what I call the first door. One of them has assigned more new books, and new is in quotes. Those are books that we have recently been given and that Joyce and Vera have put into the database, and then they're put on that shelf. So those are the books that have newly come into the library. On the other little shelf behind it is books of the month. We have our committee gets together, we decide what books we want to feature. We learned quite a long time ago that some books just sit on the shelves because people don't know they're there. And if we put them out and feature them, this month we're featuring mysteries by women sleuths. So each month that other little bookshelf will have books that we are featuring that people might not find them back in the stacks.
Good. So you guys work very hard. You do a wonderful job, and everything is absolutely perfect, except for, and I have three things written down, but you can say something about them. First, the issue, and we talked about in council today, is heat and light.
Yes. If you've been in the library recently, particularly on those very cold days, it is so cold in there. When Vera and Joyce are working at the computers, they sometimes cannot stay as long as they would like because their fingers are numb from the cold. I did put in a work order for weather stripping around the doors, and I do think that was done. I have been complaining, nagging Mr. Tango for quite some time about the problem of the heat in the library. We have two little heaters in there now, and they really don't do much of anything. First of all, for safety reasons, they cannot be where we really need them. And that's a big space with all those windows and where the cold creeps in. So I understand it came up at council today. I understand it's gone on the concerns list. Maybe by next winter, the problem will be solved. Speaking of lighting, between those two main doors that go outside used to be only where we had the street. Now, as I mentioned, it's extended along that whole wall. At night, early evening, it is so dark in that one area between those two doors that it's almost impossible to see the books, particularly down toward the bottom shelf, when we are trying to shelve them. And certainly our readers would have trouble seeing. So we've been promised lighting for a long time. Before COVID, an engineer came in and looked to see what could be done. And I've been told that after the lighting in the health center was finished, we would get our lighting. I don't know where it stands right now, but hopefully it's on the concern list. But could I say one thing about shelving that's
Yes.
kind of off the topic of that?
No, that
Question?
was the topic right there. The third item was shelving.
Oh, well, shelving. Some people say there's so much empty space. You leave an empty space of about 6 inches on each shelf. Well, that's deliberate because as we get new books and return books, we need a space to put them. When that 6 inches gets used up, then we start weeding that shelf to see what books can come off to make room for the new to us books. Bottom shelf, almost completely throughout the library, the bottom shelves are empty. They didn't used to be. That was part of our renovating of the shelving. We found out that those books on the bottom shelves never went out. Guess why? Nobody could get down there to take them out. So they sat. So we made the decision that we'd leave bottom shelves empty.
Jenny, thank you so far. You've given us a beautiful picture of what's going on there. What can you think of that I should have asked you but didn't? Anything?
Well, we covered most of the topics that I can think of. I really want to, again, thank all the people that use our library, that donate books to our library, that take books off the giveaway, the workers, my committee. I can only say, and I'm not sure that management realizes this, the library is a jewel. And when marketing comes in, the marketing always brings people in to look at the library. I know the library was one of the reasons why I came to Woodland Pond. And I am not absolutely sure that management and marketing realize how much work goes into keeping that library running, how much we depend upon our volunteers, hardworking volunteers. Perhaps some of the other committees would be unhappy with me saying this, but I think the library, and I'm not going to say this because I'm the chair. I'm the chair only because I like to organize. And it's been right up my alley to organize. But this library would not exist if it wasn't for the hardworking committee members. I just want to thank you, each of you.
I thought of one more thing I'd like you to clarify, that people don't know how much they should be able to use two things that are there. One is the copying machine and the other is the computers. Say a little bit about that.
All right, copying machine. It's too complicated. I have so much trouble with that copying machine. I can never copy anything if I put them on the top. I have to open it up and lay it. I would rather copy things in my apartment than use that copying machine.
All right.
It's too complicated for us.
That being the case, people who don't feel they can use it are very easily and welcome to come to the concierge desk for
Yes,
copies.
yes. If you're uncomfortable using that copying machine, you can get your copies made at the
Now,
concierge.
are you related to the computers and are they related to you guys?
Pardon?
Are you people responsible for the computers?
No, no, we're not responsible for the computers. We do have our Alexandria in the computer, the database. We don't know any more about how to repair or fix the computer to do what it's supposed to do than whoever's having trouble with it. You have to go, if you can't make the computer work, you have to go to the concierge and get some help. We're not there to teach people how to use the
Right.
computers.
Okay, nice. I haven't used them either, but thank you very much. Now I want to turn to the audience here and just see if anybody has any questions for Jenny about the library. Yaakov, you have a question?
Well, thanks very much for the presentation. I must agree with you. One of the things that convinced us to come was the library. When we came here, I mean,
Yes.
we were surprised that, you know, a retirement community. I was not very familiar with retirement communities, but that was definitely a big plus. I mean, it was very impressive. Not that I use it very much, because I tend to use much more the computer, and so that's Leah, my wife. I mean, we all the time. So this is a question that I have for you. Do you think that the use of the library is being affected very much by people using their computers, their tablets, and so on to read?
Well, that's hard to say
know.
because people have been using, I've been here 7.5 years, and people have been using computers for some time now. I know a lot of people, I do it myself. I read off my Kindle, but we still have the need. I like a hardcover book in my hands. So we are always going to have people using a library. My grandson a few years ago was here and he walked by and he said, "Why do you have such a big library? You can do everything on the computer." Well, our generation doesn't do everything on the computer. We do have a very small reference area next to the newspaper table. So if you want to look something up, if it's there, we still have that service. I don't think libraries are going to go away. And certainly Woodland Pond libraries are not going to go away. It's not going to go away in our generation.
Well, the other question, well, it's not a question or a remark. I mean, we are in the Sustainability Committee. We are very grateful that you allowed us to have another section, which you didn't mention that there is another one. And I don't know for sure, maybe George knows better, but he monitors more than, you know, the things that get checked out. But, you know, the Sustainability Committee has made a commitment to have things about sustainability in that shelf. And I don't know how many people use it, but we definitely encourage people to do that. And we have also a project about reusing paper, which means that using the other side of paper and so on. So now, which brings me to the copying machine. And I understand that there are some people that, I mean, have difficulty to assimilate the new complexity of electronics and devices and so on. But there are certain people in the community that can help. I mean, I have been able to help a couple of people about difficulties, either with the printer, with the computer and so on. So I think that you should make use of that capabilities among the residents. There are some of us that will be happy to help out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Yaakov. Anybody else?
Committee
Ginny?
members, do you have something you'd like to add? Oh, yes, yes.
Health Center Library, Ann asked about.
Some of us are going to be in the health center in the future, and you'd be happy to know we have a very nice small library over in the health center. And I know right now we must have, maybe 10 books that we, from our independent library, donating to the health center library. These are books that are duplicates that we already have copies of, and they go over to the health center. So when you're over there, when you end up over there, there'll still be a library for you. And you can, health center people do come over and sign books out from the library here.
Betsy?
Books that have been moved to the meditation room.
She's asking about the books that have
Yes.
been moved to the meditation room.
Some time ago, there was a section in the library about spirituality, books that fall under that umbrella. And they were not really being used very much, somewhat. So we made arrangements to donate those books to the meditation room. I haven't been over there, so I don't know how they're displayed. I know when they first went over, they were displayed in a cabinet with doors, which was probably not the greatest for people to be aware. But there are books on spirituality in the meditation room that people from independent living are more than welcome to go over.
Go back and forth now.
Yes, I believe so. Well, I think, I'm not sure. Okay.
The
so
question was,
Jenny,
are we free to go back and forth?
I believe so. Jenny, you have been a wonderful spokesperson for the wonderful things you do. And I want to end with thanking you. And now go rest.
You're welcome. And I couldn't do any of this without my committee. And it's been a busy day for me. So thank you.
Good.
I don't want to.
Thank you all for coming.